Hello, assalamu alaikum, sat shri akal, namaste. Hello, my name is Farheen Khan and you're watching the AZEEZA show. So last week we had a really great session on toxic masculinity and we had a whole male panel. This week and next week we're going to be talking with a bunch of women, and particularly on the topic of motherhood today. So with me are Noma Khan and Madhya Vaid. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Wonderful. So why don't we start with, maybe you guys can introduce yourselves so our audience knows, a little bit about you.
Should I start? Or
sure. Okay, go ahead.
So my name is Madhya Vaid, and I've been married for 8 years to my loving husband, and together we have 2 wonderful children. I have a 3-year-old son and a 3-month-old daughter.
Wow. Okay.
So I've been working for the provincial government for about, I'd say, 7 years now, and I'm currently on my 2nd mat leave.
Okay, great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Noma Khan, and I've been married for 6 years with my 2nd husband. We have a 5-year-old son, and I also have a 13-year-old daughter from my previous marriage.
Okay.
And I am a cinematographer. I do a lot of wedding videography and photography.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you.
I think it's just really important to have, great role models for women out there, and you guys are both that. So let's talk about motherhood. What does motherhood mean to you?
So, motherhood, I mean, a baby is born, a mother is born. I believe it that way. But motherhood also is about your attitude. A mother could just be a bio mother, just because of giving a birth to a child, a woman becomes a mother. But the nurturer is the one who is really performing the duty of motherhood. So it could be that the child was a foster child and been taken care of very well with the foster parents. It could be a man who was taking care of the child more, and the mother was actually the breadwinner. So motherhood is a mixed bag, basically. It could be an elder daughter who's taking care of the younger sibling.
Yeah.
Just in my case, my daughter is 13 and the son is 5. So it's an attitude more.
Right.
Person doesn't have to become a mother to be a mother,
No,
experience
absolutely.
motherhood.
You're right.
It could be a person without ever experiencing motherhood biologically, but with that attitude, with that kindness, with that personality, he could and she could enjoy the benefits of motherhood.
For sure.
That's a really great way of putting it. It's all about the mindset, right?
That's right.
Well, for me, motherhood, it's hands down one of the toughest jobs out there. I've personally struggled with infertility. So both of my children were born through IVF.
Okay.
So motherhood has a really profound and deep meaning for me.
Yeah.
It's something that I've been longing for quite some time. So now that I've finally, have my children, it's something special.
Right.
I know.
Thank you for sharing that. I know I'm hearing more and more of it, and it's something that we often don't talk about. So I appreciate that.
It's become a taboo in our society. So
I think also there's value, right? There's people put so much weight on the fact that if you don't have a healthy uterus, or if you're not fertile, then you're quote not a woman, or that you aren't good enough. And also because of that, we internalize so much of it as well. So when things like that happen, we start to question am I actually good enough? Who would want to be with me? There's all kinds of questions, right?
Sure.
So thanks for touching on that.
No worries. So I know, being a mother, it's a new chapter in a woman's life story, and for me, it gave me a sense of strength that I never really knew that I had. It provided a new purpose, a new meaning for me in life. And it gave me a sense of love and passion for my children that I didn't really think that I had in me before they were born. So it's something that I've never really experienced before. And it's motherhood. It's really just it's emotional. it's a lot of different things. It's
Right.
sleepless nights, it's poopy diapers, it's, you know,
Right.
but it's also the kisses, the cuddles, the, you know, that kind of makes up for it. It's lots of pros, but there's also cons as well. So I guess it's just a, like she said, a mixed bag,
Right.
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's really just no one definition of motherhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you, and I think you're right. I mean, both of you, like, you know, there's so much that goes into it, and I think it's a lot about, you know, how you invest emotionally, but also just the physicality of it, right? Like how busy you are and how much work you're putting into it. It's just like women
And
are, you know,
it's been such a dynamic thing, motherhood. It's been changing all these years.
Right.
Whatever you knew about motherhood from your mother and your grandmother, that has, even if you try to imply that today, it will be,
right. It
it
doesn't
will have
work.
its repercussions, right?
Like you wonder, like, how did they do it back then?
Right.
Like, I still can't.
Probably they would think the same way if when they see us. They're like, how are you juggling like between job and my mother keeps telling me this all on the phone. She's like, take a breather, take a breather. And I'm like, believe me, I'm good, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I know it's often hard, especially that both of you are, you know, women that are, you know, have your own careers and stuff to balance. And I think work-life balance is also super important. It's important, but it's also very difficult, right? So, you know, how do you manage that? How do your partners play a role in helping you sort of, you know, still achieve those goals?
First of all, I want to acknowledge that I'm speaking from a position of privilege, in the sense that, you know, I can afford childcare. I'm choosing to work, and I have family that live nearby.
Right.
I know for a lot of women that's not the case. They might be single. There might be single mothers out there, or you know, people that mothers that don't have family nearby for support.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I mean-
I kind of want to acknowledge that and
Absolutely.
just mention this like from my perspective, and there are several different perspectives out
For
there.
sure. Yeah.
So to be honest, I don't think that you can have it all and do it all at the same time. It's not possible. I think that it really truly depends on how flexible your employer is,
Right.
and how flexible your job is.
Right.
So for me, I was lucky in the sense that I had a flexible employer, and my hours of work were flexible in the sense that I was able to start and finish whenever I wanted to,
Right.
as long as I put in the required number of hours.
Right. Okay.
And I was also, you know, lucky enough to be able to work from home several days a week.
Right.
So what that meant was I could pick up my son and just drop him off at my mom's or my mother-in-law's and just work from home.
Right. I see. Okay.
I like the point that she made about, you know, it's not the similar type of families, that we are not privileged right now. And like being in a nuclear family is much more challenging than being in with the extended family.
From a childcare perspective.
Oh, absolutely, you know. In fact, if you see, historically, children were raised by the society, by the community. It's through the years that when we have nuclearized everything, that you see that it's all and whole the responsibility of just two people, the father and the mother,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And with the extended family, that was not the case.
Right.
So the motherhood, as I said before, was always passed down to the grandmother or the aunts or the siblings.
Yes.
And everybody would have the input of taking care. But coming back to our ground realities, as much as we want that, yes, these are the challenges, the
Right.
growing pains, right? As you say, but you still have the smile going on and the happiness going on around it, because it is such an interesting experience of your life that no matter how challenging the role is, it's still worth it at the end.
Right.
And a very important part is of the partner. Because I had two experiences, right? So I
Yeah,
can give you a very good example of my own life. That from having a partner who was a very controlling person, at that time I used to do just a very simple job like teaching, just to support my own parents back in India. I was in Dubai at that time. So, but even that getting that 2,000 dirhams at home was a very big slap on that person's ego. And how do I confirm this woman
Right.
behind the house?
Right.
And how do I pinpoint on the things that are going to make me control over her more than she getting that little bit of an an independent time for her own self.
Right.
See, it's not about money at the end.
Right.
Okay, maybe my parents were in need, but if somebody's parents are not in need, I would still suggest that a woman should have her own career goals, her passion, something got to do with sports, something where she feels exuberated, she feels the sense of freedom.
Right. Well, I also want to take a moment to acknowledge that we have Rabia Nasir with us on the show as well. And Rabia is actually in Edmonton, so she's, joining us. And I'd like to hear what she has to say, first introduce herself, and also what she thinks, about motherhood.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rabia Nasir, and I am a working mother. So I work with the government of Alberta with the status of women as a gender-based analysis senior policy advisor. And I have a 5-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old son, and I'm just expecting my third on the way. So I've got my hands full with the little ones. And at the same time, I'm also engaged with the community. So I've worked on various projects in terms of public speaking, looking at community building, and also looking at women leadership, and as well as how can mothers be involved in raising children that are socially conscious and active parts of the community. For me, motherhood it's a journey. It's ever evolving. You learn a lot about yourself. There is opportunity for growth, and also it's really self-reflective. So once I became a mother, it was really eye-opening for me to think about every action, everything that I do, everything I think is really shaping this child. So my influence and my impact on that child is really it's something that we can't put into words. And so at the same time, I think there's challenges that we don't speak about and we need to talk about more often. I find that there's no discussion about some of the way that we're challenged in terms of working or pursuing other things and at the same time raising our children. So I hope that we are able to have more open discussions and start a place to talk about some of the way that we've overcome those roadblocks and what we're kind of thinking about as we go through with that.
Okay, welcome back to what you're watching the AZEEZA show, and today we're talking about motherhood today and what that looks like. So, Noma, we were just talking about the fact that you were saying that you had the value of having a supportive partner,
Yes, definitely.
and the importance of that. So, did you want to continue
Yeah, I'll
with
just
that?
add a few points more.
Please.
That the sense of freedom for any human being is so vital. Just to live like a basic life, that if that is taken away, the person completely leashes himself or herself on the immediate person around, be it parents. Sometimes parents are over controlling too. We do have issues like those with the youth, right? Or your partner. And that damages a long way.
Yes.
To get outside, to get yourself out of that, and just to imagine that there could be somebody who would dream like you dream, who would understand your life the way you understand it, and who wants to see you just the way you are, nothing less, nothing more. To find somebody like that for me was, in fact, a more of a shocker. Because I always thought men are all about control. Men are all about being the one who are on the authoritative position. That's how we are taught all the time.
Of course. So how did you manage? What made you decide? If we can kind of go to that. Because you had a daughter as well, right?
Yes, I had a daughter.
Because often that's part of the challenge, right? Is women won't leave those types of relationships because of the kids.
Though I knew that the marriage was not working from the day one. But you know how you have the community and your family and everybody's like, let's have a kid. Oh, that's the worst decision you will give anyone.
Yeah, but that's often the answer to everything, right? Have a baby, everything will be fine.
Just have a child.
Yes, that's right.
And my decision after 9 years of that marriage just came because of that child. If I was not that, because see, I was not out there or working or maybe even evolving as a person at that time. A partner should be one who lets you evolve,
Yes.
who lets you grow, who gives you that balance where you feel you are short of.
Right.
If that is not there and everything is all about one person, then it's difficult for you to grow mentally, physically, just as a human.
Right.
And that's what was happening over there. And I could see that is affecting my daughter as well. And I didn't want her to be in the same circle again. And then I had to take that decision all by myself without anybody literally involved in that. Maybe a couple of few friends who were there who could understand and who could relate to that.
Right.
I took that decision, and I think somewhere Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells you that once you take a good decision for yourself, then there are ways. People
Yes.
stay in the same rut and they feel, why isn't anybody helping me? Why isn't God helping me? Well, first help yourself.
You take it step.
Did you take
I
that
agree.
step where
Yeah.
you could get everything opening up for you? Yes, I took that step, and then I found everything was getting in place.
That's awesome.
It's just like coming out of that sinking sand, and once you have got hold of that thing, the only thing is just to pull yourself out.
Right. Right.
So everybody has, in any kind of problem, people do get that helping hand,
Yes.
opportunities or some friend or anything, and you should grab that.
For sure.
Take that leap of faith, take that leap of hope, and anything that is associated with you growing as a human, you should take that jump and grab it.
Yeah. For
And anything
sure.
that is degrading you or pushing you back, and you feel that this is not me, that is somewhere where you have to think and give yourself, a stop sign that
For
I don't
sure.
have to, keep going in that.
For sure. Well, thank you for saying that. Medea, what do you think about the role of your partner? How do you find
My
that?
partner definitely had a huge role to play in
Right.
my work-life balance. There have been, many times where I came home from work and dinner wasn't ready, but I knew in the back of my mind that my husband would be okay with eating cereal that night. And it's just reassuring,
Right.
that I didn't have to have dinner ready and we'd be okay.
Right.
And a lot of times it was my mom or my mother-in-law that again, they're nearby, so they were, I could just turn to them and have them pack us some dinner if we needed to. So it's
good.
really important. Like, family is really instrumental in helping me, in my case, achieve that work-life balance.
Excellent.
That's good, yeah.
So I'm going to ask Rabia the same question. So Rabia, what do you think? How does your partner play a role in you supporting, your career goals? I know you're working in Edmonton with the government and status of women. There's some exciting work that's happening out there.
For me, I'm going to say this. I think the notion of work-life balance is a false notion. It puts the assumption that we have the privilege to be able to have balance. So what I mean is, with balance, is everyone able to have a flexible work schedule? Do we have the income? Do we have the resources and supports that we can be able to create that village for us to raise children? I think for most of us, what happens is living and working in North America, it's really difficult because everything we're doing ourselves. So it becomes almost like we're working towards perfection, which is not possible. So I would say that there is no such thing as work-life balance. You'll find that, once you might find that you're pursuing your career and you're achieving successes, at the same time, it might have an effect on your children, vice versa. But I don't think we've come to that point. I think your partner's support is really vital. For me, my husband is really supportive. We've been really able to integrate our children into the way that we do different things. So you'll see that we bring our children to different community meetings. I've taken them to conferences. I've taken them to different groups. I have tried to involve them in different things. So with upcoming elections, I've tried to involve my children in door knocking, in other opportunities that come up. It can be difficult. I'm not going to say that it's easy, because now you're trying to manage your children at the same time as you're doing other things. There'll be times of distraction. And so for me, it's really important to get them involved when they're at a very young age. They need to see that even though there are challenges and moms maybe might not be handling it the best, we're able to be a part of different things. And it starts at a very young age.
Okay, great. So we'll continue then. So one of the questions I just had, I mean, just sort of, adding to the conversation we were just talking about. So I think that, I think part of, going back to both of your points in terms of like, partners being supportive. I think one of the things that often happens is that, when we, there's a lot of women who started reaching out because of the show as well that are sort of coming forward. And you're absolutely right. I think it's so important to recognize that there is that possibility that, you can actually have a loving partner who can support you, and that you don't necessarily have to, be forced to stay at home or not work or, not, seek an education, and you can still grow and evolve, like you said, right? Mm-hmm. And that, you don't have to worry necessarily that somebody's gonna, if there's not enough salt in the plate, that you're gonna just like throw it or toss it in front of them, right? Like things like that happen. It's unfortunate because like,
Yes.
I mean, I'll give you my example. We grew up in that kind of an environment too, right? I mean, it's so different when, you're a public figure outside, but the home, in the home, it's a whole different story, right? Yeah. So, we grew up that, and that I think impacted us as children for sure, because, growing up seeing that type of thing and seeing, our mom dealing with, mental health and stuff like that because of, some of that really took a toll on us, right? And I think, growing up for me, like I was 6, by the time I turned 16, I decided to stop working. I was just like, to stop going to school. I decided I'm going to take a job and try to take my mom out of that situation, right? And I remember telling her like so many times, like, Mom, you don't have to do this anymore. You can leave. I'm here for you,
Right.
But it's hard because we're women. Like we have that sort of, we always are so forgiving and loving, right? And we try our best to make things work. It's really hard to let go because it's like, oh, maybe he'll change, or maybe things will be different. He might be, something else will happen that'll just completely change everything, right? And we start to sort of think less about what's actually the negative. We keep focusing on the positive, even if it's like, a percent.
That's the way we are fed.
Yes.
Though nobody understands what's the meaning of positivity or perfection. It's such a topic that can be different for a completely different person.
Yeah.
For me, for you, a perfect relationship could be, a peace of mind. For somebody, what's peace of mind? I need my bank balance to be full,
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
So-
different for everybody. For
Exactly.
sure. Even work-life balance can be different for
Yeah.
different people. Like I know that despite all the strategies that I have, my work-life balance wasn't perfect. I don't think it can ever be perfect. The thing that's just it's a myth. Like there are many times where my house was a chaos and I felt like my life was chaotic, but I think it's just you have to really take each day as it comes and apply some you just use the support system, the support networks that you have, and just take each day as it comes. And I think as women, we really tend to want to be everything for everybody at the same time, and we really have to take time for ourselves.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you, how do you do that? How do you find time to do that? What do you do?
Well, for me, what worked was during my lunch hour at work, I used to go to the gym. So that 1 hour, I just went to the gym and worked out, and that really helped me strike that balance between the other parts of my life, because that was my time.
Right.
And when I came out of it, I was a better performer at work, and I was able to manage the chaos at home.
Oh, gym helps.
It really does.
Gym really brings out that energy to deal back home. For me, it was interesting is because the career that right now I'm in as a cinematographer, it just happened because it's always been a passion. Taking pictures, being behind the editing in the
Behind the
computer.
camera.
Yeah, behind the camera. And now I'm in front.
You're in front. You're doing great.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, and so it's still being in it, and I'm business-wise is going pretty well. This was one of the busiest season in the last 3 years that I started in Canada, and it's growing. And as long as it doesn't get too much about finance, I know I'll be happy in this. The day it becomes less of a passion and more of what's coming in my bank, or how good am I making, or as our next topic comes of competing, is it all about the competition? Then I won't enjoy it.
Yeah.
I will not be the same person I am in today
Yeah.
the way I am.
So why don't we talk about that a little bit, since we wanted to kind of touch on another topic around. So do you find that there's a lot of competition versus collaboration amongst women? And like, have you seen that in your work? How do you deal with that?
So definitely, I mean, the way to go is collaboration.
For sure.
I completely agree. After working in, you know, and seeing actually examples of, if you go to see an only male working place, there would always be some sort of an arrogance that comes up between men, if there are only men. If you go to an only women working place, which I have worked, and you'll find jealousy come up very fast. That's how our nature is, you know. But if you have a more mixed bag, like if you have mix of men and women in a working space, there will be a balance. And this is not because a gender thing, it's because of the attitude and personality that we bring on the table. You know, so collaboration is the same thing. For me, being in the art field, I meet varied kind of people, you know, and especially when you are an artist, there is one thing that can connect with another person, and that is the psyche. It's said, like, you know, the people behind art are more like twisted mind or whatever they call them, you know. The mind flies and they are always thinking and imaginative. So it's interesting to meet different women, men, and learn from them. I completely started with collaboration when I came here initially in Canada. But with collaboration, I learned. That was the easiest and sure shot of way of learning for me.
But I think in this day and age, especially if you work in a corporate environment, women are just set up to compete. Like it's a male-dominated workforce, and with that, you know, women don't have equal opportunity or equal pay. And so they're just naturally just set up to compete with each other, and it's really unfortunate
for limited
leadership positions.
Right? Exactly,
Yeah,
and
so
that's why you're
like
see more of that sort of pulling each other down type of attitude.
It's really unfortunate, and I think as women we need to seek out mentors. It's really important, no matter what stage you are in your career. Always have a mentor available.
True, very true. That's the reason why most of the women, they are shy to come out of those shells. And women who are really who have the capacity. Every woman has the capacity, especially when it comes to, you know, artwork. Either you're a good cook, either you are a good painter.
For sure,
they just keep it. They think that just keeping that as a hobby would settle everything good, and they would just present it to the few people who come here. Good, very nice. Why don't you take it as an independent work?
Yes, exactly.
As a challenge yourself.
I wish we had more time to talk about this. We've run out of time, but I'd love to have that conversation about like entrepreneurship and, you know, finding ways. So thank you both for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having us.
That's great. Well, you heard it today, so thank you so much for watching. This is Motherhood Today. Check us out next week as we continue the conversation with some other mothers. Take care.